and welcome to the World Now. Now let's begin in the Netherlands, where the UN's International Court of Justice is hearing a case brought by South Africa accusing Israel of committing genocide against Palestinians in Gaza. The submission also calls on the court to order Israel to stop military operations there. The ICJ will deliver only on opinion on the genocide allegation, as the case is not a criminal trial. Although it's being closely watched, Israel has vehemently rejected the accusation as baseless.
The ICJ is a UN's top court based in The Hague in the Netherlands. Its rulings are theoretically legally binding on parties to the ICJ, which include Israel and South Africa, but are not enforceable.
I take note of the solemn declarations made by Judge Ad hoc Moseneke and Judge Ad hoc Barak, and I declare them duly installed as judges ad hoc in the case concerning application of the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide in the Gaza Strip, South Africa versus Israel. I shall now recall the principal steps of the procedure in the present case. On 29 December 2023, the government of South Africa filed in the registry of the court an application instituting proceedings against the State of Israel, alleging violations by the latter of its obligations under the 1948 Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide.
South Africa's Justice Minister, Ronald Lamola, delivered the opening statement in the case. South Africa is presenting its case today, and Israel its defense on Friday. In its submission, South Africa says Israel's actions are intended to bring about the destruction of a substantial part of the Palestinian national, racial, and ethnic group. It says Israel's actions include killing Palestinians in Gaza, causing them serious bodily and mental harm, and inflicting on them conditions of life calculated to bring about their physical destruction. Israel is now calling for provisional measures to be implemented by the court as a matter of urgency, including that Israel cease all military activities in Gaza. On Wednesday, South African president said, quote, "Our opposition to the ongoing slaughter of the people in Gaza has driven us as a country to approach the ICJ," end quote. Israeli President Isaac Herzog called the accusations atrocious and preposterous. The ICJ could rule quickly in South Africa's request for Israel to suspend its military campaign, but a final ruling on whether Israel is committing genocide could take years. In Gaza, more than 23,350 people have been killed, according to Hamas-run health ministry, since the war began in the aftermath of Hamas's 7th of October attacks on southern Israel. In those attacks, some 1,300 people were killed, mainly civilians, and about 240 others taken hostage.
Now, for more on the hearing, the ICJ Global Affairs Analyst Ejike Opa joins me from Dallas, Texas. Thank you so much for joining us from Dallas, Texas. What's your reading of the latest developments coming from the International Court of Justice in relations to what is going on the theater of war between Israel, going all out against the Palestinians?
Thank you for having me. Again, South Africa filing the suit against Israel, and then it's before the ICJ. The point is, if they get a resolution or get a ruling, is it enforceable? I don't know of any such rulings by ICJ that has led to anybody getting punished or getting enforced. So, but it's good that South Africa is taking that lead and filing the case. But the only thing that will stop, the Palestinian-Israeli conflict going on is if the two parties come to terms on what it is that is aggravating them, or the U.S., the biggest supporter for Israel, takes a strong step and tell them to stop, or stop giving them the support that is enabling them to do what they do. So far, nothing has happened. Um, you know, American President, Joe Biden is not going to be able to be that bold and call on Israel to quit um, because of the Jewish commitment and the Jewish leadership on issues that affect Israel. I'm not saying Israel doesn't have the right to go after Palestinians for the October 7th attack, but you look at what is going on. It's an organized military going after a group, Hamas, which is just, they've called them terrorist group, but they're in their minds they are freedom fighters. So the ICJ effort is commendable, but I'm always asking, why do you do something that is not enforceable? Why are you going to go to court to get a judgment or a ruling, and at the same time you can enforce it? Because Israel is going to ignore it. It doesn't matter the outcome. They're going to show up because they are a member nation of UN. They will show up and they will defend their action. But at the end, even if it's something against them, they are not going to obey it. ICJ did the same thing with Russia and Ukraine, and the war is still going on.
Well, so although Israel has previously said its actions in the Gaza Strip are justified because it's responding to Hamas' deadly attacks on 7th of October, but South Africa said Israel's actions were, quote, intended to bring about the destruction of a substantial part of the Palestinian national, racial, and ethnic group. Do you feel there is enough evidence on the ground for South Africa to substantiate this claim?
When you go to court, the litigant, in this case, South Africa, is going to have something that has convinced them to go forward to file the suit. But the point I'm making is, yes, Israel has the right to defend itself. Yes, Israel has the right to respond to the action of October 7th as a reaction. But the thing, at what point do they come to terms with what the world is saying, that this is excessive? Civilians are dying. They are physically destroying Palestine. How long would it take to get rebuilt? So those are the issues. It's not about the public relations stunt of going to ICJ and making a case. While the case is on, the war hasn't paused. They still doing what they are doing. So that is just the irony of it. It's not that it's not justified to go to court, but the thing is nobody's obeying ICJ. They have no enforceable right. It's just going to go down in the history books as South Africa stepped up, because they have a humanitarian concern for a part that's.
But come to think of it very quickly, Israel is a signatory to the Genocide Convention of 1948, which defines genocide and commits states to prevent it. But what we see every day, in the word of Adila Hassim, says that he said it's mounting irreparable loss of life, property, dignity, and humanity for the Palestinian people. So in what ways, very quickly, do you think Israel would justify its actions under the Genocide Convention of the 1948, despite these damning allegations?
Again, any member nation of UN is signatory to something. But thank God you brought up the time ICJ was established. Since then, we've had genocide, we've had wars. None of those things has stopped anything, is what I'm saying. Israel is justified in their mind that they are doing this to defend themselves. They are doing this in retaliation against an act that was brought upon them October 7th. And the world is now looking at it. Is it enough? So the thing is, what is going to make Israel stop? Is it ICJ? I doubt it. In my mind, and as an American who observes these things from this side of the pond, it's only America that will tell Israel stop. And the way to tell them to stop is to pull back on the resources that they get from America.
Right.
Israel gets about $13 million a day from the U.S. That is, do the math for a year. No other country gets that kind of support. So, there's a reason they have the resources they have. And maybe it's because they want Israel to be an independent nation in a midst of angry and unfriendly nations. But if that resource is cut or pulled back, maybe Israel will not say,
right.
it's time for us to pull back. But until that is done, and you can see what is going on with the U.S. Congress, demanding that Biden do something, both for the war and as well as funding Ukraine or Israel. So it's a very complicated issue, even though you look at it as issue humanitarian.
That's
People
right.
have always died, and we have all this UN, we have all this peace accord, we have all these treaties. When the things happened in Rwanda in 1994, what happened? Did South Africa sue?
I'm afraid because of our time, we just have to call it. We just have to go. So many things happening. You're just trying to situate it with what happened in Rwanda and all of that, with the attendant humanitarian crisis happening there in Palestine. But then we'll see how far South Africa can go with the the ICJ hearing. Global Affairs analyst Ejike Opa, thank you so much for your keenness of insight on this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Stay with us here on World Now. We'll take a break and be back with more stories.
Never before, as TVC Breakfast takes your weekends to a whole new level. Introducing TVC Breakfast Weekend Edition, your ultimate source of thrilling sports updates, insightful political analysis, and captivating entertainment news. Stay in the know with what's trending, catch up with the latest in sports, and immerse yourself in the latest buzz from the world of music and movies. Your weekends are no longer just days off, but moments packed with knowledge, excitement, and enjoyment. TVC Breakfast Weekend Edition, only on TVC News.